It's
Yeah.
getting down to that why. What's really important to someone and making
Yeah.
sure that we're putting out that message and
Yeah.
we're connecting everything together. When we have someone's attention, we want them to see that we're authentically have a solution for them in all those different touch points. That communication, that message that we're putting out there, that experience that we're generating,
Yeah.
that's going to make a big difference between the return that you're going to see if you focus on that and improve it, or if you don't.
Right.
So, bottom line on that, you can try to do 10 different sorts of marketing campaigns being on all these different tactics, or you can do one really, really well and optimize it for peak performance,
Yeah.
and it'll knock the other 10 strategies out of
Welcome to AFO Wealth Management Forward, a podcast powered by Arrowroot Family Office that's at the intersection of accounting, wealth management, behavioral finance, technology, and entrepreneurship. We help accounting firms and financial advisors grow their practice by going beyond the numbers as we learn from industry leaders and subject matter experts to discover the secret to their success. A podcast that highlights everything from the transformative power of AI to embracing the human-first approach of behavioral finance to help you understand the psychological and emotional relationships to money and meaning. Here is your host, Rory Henry, director at Arrowroot Family Office and author of Holistic Guide to Wealth Management.
All right. Hello, everyone. I have another great guest joining me today. We're actually doing back-to-back episodes. I was just on his show. So let me introduce him. He is a certified marketing advisor, a growth coach, and co-founder of Growth Amplifiers. He works with successful businesses who are seeking to grow by optimizing marketing and sales systems for maximum results through a process he calls the value journey optimization. So without further ado, let me introduce my friend, Kenny Harper. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Super great to be here today talking to other amplifiers who are in this world making a bigger difference. It's
Yes.
great to connect with people who really are caring about doing things better and achieving their best result by making little improvements over time.
God, you're speaking my language, little improvements over time. I mean, I had a great time on your podcast. I know you are an amplifier in the space here, Kenny, and you're coming out with a book. We're both coming out with books here shortly.
Yes.
Yes. So why don't you give our audience a little bit of background on yourself, and the work you do at Growth Amplifiers, kind of before we get into this latest book.
Super cool. So I graduated a couple decades ago from college taking marketing in multimedia. And after I graduated, I worked for some of the best advertising agencies in the company, working on some large global campaigns,
Ah,
really cool brands, had some great experiences, but also started doing freelancing at this on the side. And what I realized is I like working with the business owner and the teams more directly. So
yeah,
while the large brands are fun to play with, to me, it helps amplify me. It gives me energy to connect with people, understand their teams, and really understand um, what their goals are, and then work with them to cultivate transformation.
yeah.
So that's something that fueled me when I started my business about a little over a decade ago. I started off as a freelance web designer, and then started to do digital marketing and leading a team and building an agency. But then I realized that again, the value that I was providing was not in the service.
Hmm.
It was actually working with people and helping cultivate transformation, which it sounds very similar because we were talking about
We
you
were.
you do that in your business from playing a different instrument, and which
Yeah.
is really awesome. I'm glad to align with you in that nature.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that then here, because those in the audience know that I've talked about, the experience economy, going from delivering services to really staging experiences and guiding transformations. Can you just talk about how you are staging those experiences, and then what type of transformations are you here guiding through that sales and marketing approach?
Yes. So what I started noticing is there's a lot of different people out there who maybe they do marketing themselves, maybe they have an internal team, maybe they hire an agency.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people, no offense to anyone, will get focused on the tactic. They'll be
Yep.
focusing on, I'm going to put this strategy in place. Maybe I've been told I need to send out a newsletter, or maybe I need to be on social media, or maybe I need to do a video or whatever. And that is a tactic. And it's good. You need to have tactics, but you need to have a bigger strategy. You need to be able to look at the big picture, and
Yep.
you need to make sure that everything's aligned and running smoothly, because what is happening, especially now more than ever, you've got AI, you've got all these
Yep.
social media apps, you have so
So
many different
much.
things going on,
Yeah.
is people are putting a lot of time and or money and or both, and they've got gaps in their value journey. They've got gaps in their processes, and what ends up happening, it's like they're pouring water into a leaky bucket,
Yeah.
putting a lot of time and energy into something and not getting the result. And so they, a lot of people think, well, I've got a marketing team. I've hired people to look at this, so it should be covered. But usually, again, they're looking so much at the tactic, they're not looking at the big picture. They're not looking for those gaps.
Yeah.
And so that's where I get to come in as a value journey optimization specialist and really understand how are they getting their message in front of their
Mhm.
ideal customers, and then seemingly and subtly guiding them to become customers that pay, stay, and refer
Mhm.
in an authentic way. Because when you look at cultivating an experience and you're differentiating yourself, you're providing more value to those you serve, and you're going to see that impact with having advocates and raving customers for your
Yep.
business.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big picture.
Are you an accountant looking to generate more revenue and secure your future success as automation and artificial intelligence revolutionize the accounting profession? If so, contact us at AFO Wealth Management Forward. We specialize in helping accountants and advisors just like you build a custom brand to pinpoint your optimal clientele, generate highly qualified leads through our data-driven digital marketing, and execute wealth management growth services to bring more value to your firm and your client's life. Our strategic approach to branding, marketing, and wealth management is carefully tailored to attract ideal clients, increase customer retention rates, and cultivate lasting relationships with clients across generations. Visit wealthmanagementforward.com to book your free consultation to find out how you can elevate your practice.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting on some terminology here, and it sounds like this is really a holistic strategy. So, not looking at just one tactic or strategy, but really looking at the whole. I mean, we do the same thing when it comes to holistic advice or holistic wealth management. And then you touched on this values. So, I want to kind of, really dive deeper into this values based approach and how you're optimizing that client journey through a values type of solution.
Right. So here's a few examples. Uh, Sometimes we'll have someone who says, I get most of my business through referrals. I work with a
Yeah.
lot of accountant professionals,
Yeah.
CPAs, tax planners, and they're like, we get most of our business through referrals. I'm like, that's great. Referrals are awesome. You want to have referrals. But here's the challenge with that. Are all of your referrals your ideal customers?
Ideal.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, actually not a lot of them actually are. So you get a lot of B and C
Yeah.
referrals. That's unfortunately not going to be what you want. What's the other challenge with referrals? You you can't directly impact them. So what I suggest to the people I'm connecting with is you want to create an authentic way of getting your message in front of your market. It doesn't have to be advertising, but you want to have a plan of this is how we're going to get our message in front of our ideal prospects.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens, Rory, if you're pushing your agenda on other people?
Yeah.
What happens if you push your agenda, you try to be like, hey, here's my product, buy it? What tends to happen?
Yeah. You push them away.
You push your agenda, you're going to push people away. On the other side of the fence, if you connect with people, and maybe they connect with you, they see stuff that you're putting out there in the world, but
Mhm.
then you don't have a plan to move the relationship forward, what tends to happen?
It falls flat. You're spinning your wheels.
Like me in the 4th grade looking at the girls in class and wondering why I don't have a girlfriend. You, I heard the song Bust a Move, but I didn't know how at the time. So we need to have an authentic way of moving
Yeah.
relationships forward, because ultimately our business is between people.
Yeah.
And if you know that people have a challenge that they're dealing with and something that they want, then all you need to do is simply share with them, hey, if you have this challenge and you want to go and get this result, I have a plan or a process that can help you get from here to there. And here's the benefits of using mine over others.
Yeah.
You don't need to push anything, you need to share. And a lot of people either are too extreme with the pushing and they're coming across salesy and people tune them out,
Yeah.
or they don't have a plan to move those opportunities forward and they go nowhere.
Yeah.
So kind of that's some of the challenges that we look to solve.
Yeah. I mean, that's going into many people start with the what and the how and then talk about that, but it's really that why. And we've talked about transformations here. I don't know if that was on your podcast or this one here.
A little bit of
Kenny.
both.
Yeah, right. But we're talking about getting to them to that future, that ideal future state. And you're that person that can get them there. So painting that picture of that life that they could have and then the feelings that they will be able to have in that state. So I think that it's really getting to that, maybe that Simon Sinek why, right? That emotion then leads to action.
That's a good point. You're bringing that up. Another common challenge seeing with the accounting financial space. People who maybe have a marketing team, maybe they're doing it themselves, maybe they've hired an agency and they're putting out their content. Maybe they're doing podcasts, maybe they're creating videos. And then you look at what they're putting out and they're talking their language. They're talking about taxes.
Yeah.
They're talking about accounting software and credentials. They're talking about stuff other people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, nor do I care. That's not what I want.
Right.
I don't want accounting credentials. But you mentioned something just now. What somebody who's in a small business or in a business or whatever, and they're stressed because
Yeah.
they don't know how they're going to make their next paycheck. They don't even
Right.
know where their finances are at. They don't have financial clarity.
Right.
They know they're overpaying in taxes. They don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And they're wondering if their business is going to stay around.
Yeah.
They're wondering how they're going to explain this to their spouse. And they're regretting some of the decisions they made. And they know that if they could get some clarity, if they can get someone to help them make sense of those numbers, if they can get someone to help them become more profitable and make better decisions, they could turn it all around. They believe in themselves and they want to feel
Yeah.
confident and secure as a business owner. And when you're putting out those conversations, when you're telling those stories, and people can say, yes, I can relate to those challenges. And I really would want that. I want to be able to go and take a vacation with my family
Right.
and know I've got the numbers covered and it's not going to be a situation. It's getting down to that why. What's really important to someone and making
Yeah.
sure that we're putting out that message and
Yeah.
we're connecting everything together. When we have someone's attention, we want them to see that we're authentically have a solution for them in all those different touch points. That communication, that message that we're putting out there, that experience that we're generating,
Yeah.
that's going to make a big difference between the return that you're going to see if you focus on that and improve it, or if you don't.
Right.
So, bottom line on that, you can try to do 10 different sorts of marketing campaigns, being on all these different tactics, or you can do one really, really well and optimize it for peak performance,
Yeah.
and it'll knock the other 10 strategies out of the water.
Well, let's maybe go into that then here, Kenny, about maybe using a tool here for peak performance. Is there tools or resources that our audience can leverage that can help them really transform their practice and get to them to where they want to go?
Yes, there are. So
I was
I'm
like,
going to talk
there's not
about
a
three
silver
pillars.
bullet. I don't want a silver bullet. There's maybe a couple things here.
Well, right. So here's a thing that I'll share with you. Number one is this is the growth triad, and it's a framework for generating consistent results.
Yeah.
Okay. The first pillar of the growth triad is to have the documented journey. The documented journey is writing out and documenting how you're going to get your message in front of your market and then move that relationship forward seamlessly
Mhm.
and subtly for them to become customers and some to elevate to become advocates, and some even will be promoters for your business
Yeah,
if you
let's
have a
talk
plan
about
to
that
do
real
it.
quickly. So I want you to touch on that. I've
Yes.
briefly heard about it on past episodes. Can you talk about the power of really developing those relationships into having those people become advocates?
Yes. So, example, another challenge people have, accountants are guilty of this. I may have mentioned this before. The the thought, if my clients need something, they're going to ask for my help. Challenge
Yeah.
is they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So they may never ask. So rather than waiting around and hoping that they figure something out by themselves and then they ask, being proactive and really taking the time to understand what your client wants, how they're feeling the service that you're providing, what are their challenges,
Yeah.
what is their preference and how you show up. If you take the time to really understand and treat others the way you'd want to be treated, you can have that advised roar impact, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know that's your line, but can you help share that line? Because this was just featured on the Growth Amplifiers podcast, and I thought it was a great concept.
Yeah.
So, shameless plug.
Yeah.
Rory, if you tell us,
Right.
advise roar. What is
Yeah.
this
The greater
concept?
return on relationship. That's what that roar is. And as I've stated many times on the podcast, it's that relationship not only with your clients or your colleagues, but that relationship with yourself.
So that is going to be the relationship with yourself. You have to have that self-awareness, self-worth, and
Yeah.
know when you're stepping in and you're connecting with your clients and customers, you're not doing it to sell a product or to push your agenda. You're doing it because you want to better serve them.
Yeah.
You're doing it with the right intention. You believe in yourself and you believe the value that you provide. You're reaching out to them and having that conversation, asking what their challenges are, ask how you could help them, giving them awareness of things that they may not know about,
Yeah.
being a good guide for them. Because when you can help elevate them, when you've taken the time out of your day to show that you really care and want to help people beyond just checking the box of what they ask for, that's how you can create advocates, because they say, wow, we've hired people in the past and they've provided the service, but you've really taken the time to help us get to where we want to go. You helped us transform and change what was possible. And
Yeah.
that's going to get advocates, because a lot of people don't show up that way. Amplifiers do, but a lot of people don't. So when you show up as an amplifier, you're going to be showing up, you're going to be differentiating yourself, you're going to get different attention for that, and you're going to cultivate advocates who believe and see how if you help them, you can definitely help the people that's in their inner circle as well.
Yeah. I totally agree here. And it goes back to that transformation aspect. I think if we have the ability to transform lives, like we're almost obligated to help people with our value offering. And that's why I love your values journey here, because really that cycle, that marketing cycle, that sales and marketing cycle is really a customer journey where you touch them early on, and then through that process, if you're doing things correctly, you're uncovering, their problems, pain points, but what matters most to them. And then what we talk about in the work we do, their goals, dreams, and aspirations, and painting that picture of a better tomorrow, that future self concept that we discussed on your podcast and I talk about all the time here, is really helping people get to that ideal state of where they want to go in that full journey. And marketing and sales and what you're doing here, Kenny, is so important, because you're then able, I love marketing and sales, but marketing especially, you're then able to really craft that story. I love the power of story and helping people uncover their past story, but then most importantly, helping them shape or craft their future story.
It is an important part. We're all on a journey. We all have a story that we're creating every day. And we can get some blind spots in our own world.
Yeah.
That's why it's helpful to get a fresh perspective. You mentioned on my podcast, we're bouncing back and forth a lot,
Yeah. It's all
which is fine.
right.
You got to go check out Growth Amplifiers. I'll
Right?
be sure to cross promote this one.
Yes.
But we talked about the documented journey. There's the actionable metrics. These are the actions that you can take that can
Yeah.
influence and predict the result. It's not just let's put stuff out there and see what happens. Let's be really focused on what is the 20% of actions that we can take that will give us 80% of the results. Let's
Mhm.
track it. Let's get focused and make sure that we're moving the needle. We can't just afford to do things and hope they work. You can do that, but wouldn't you rather be more effective? Wouldn't you rather spend a little bit more time in your planning
Yeah.
and make sure that what you're doing is actually working? And then last but not least, we talked about documented journey, actionable metrics, and then the tools and tactics. This is where a lot of people are focusing. They're saying, I've got a tool, I got a tactic.
Yeah.
These are important,
They start with
but
that. Yeah.
if you don't have all three together, if you're not looking at the consistent plan, really getting focused on the actions that will influence and predict the result,
Yeah.
and having the right tools in place, if you're missing one, you could be missing the opportunity of having consistent, predictable results.
Yeah.
So the first step to start, you're like, okay, that's nice. There's a lot of information here. Where,
Yeah.
where do you start?
Where do we
It's
start?
you got to assess where you're at. Get assess where you're at in the different stages of the
Yeah.
customer value journey. So that's why I like giving out the resources to do this. You can go to growthamplifiers.com/amplify and get a free checklist of things that you can do in a free video overview. It's growthamplifiers.com/amplify.
I love
We
it.
give out this free information because we want to make a difference in the world. And if all you did was to see a blind spot you didn't realize you had, or to see a bottleneck that's maybe holding you back, that if you solved it, it would make a big difference. Or if you saw an untapped opportunity that if you put into play would have a big impact on your business. If you just had one idea that you can adjust and move and improve, it's going to change the trajectory of all your efforts from anything that you're doing now. So
Yeah.
rather than doing a lot of activity, focus on optimizing the process and you're going to get much better results. Working
Yeah.
smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Now, what if those in our audience have an internal team or they have an agency that they hired? Is that something that you can do as far as working with them on this customer value journey?
Yes. So I've worked with people who either were doing it on their own, maybe they had an internal team, or maybe they've hired an agency. And a lot of times these people are doing good at what they do. They maybe are doing like a certain marketing campaign, maybe they're executing tactics and they know the tactic part, but they're not trained to look at the holistic journey. They're not trained to be an optimization specialist. And even so, if they have some of that knowledge, if they're in it themselves, they're going to have a blind spot. So getting a fresh perspective and just saying, hey, here's something you can consider. Hey, did you notice this?
Yeah.
You're going to be able to catch some things that you didn't realize were there, that were opportunities that were not being tapped, or maybe a blind spot that could be holding you back and you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
So getting that fresh perspective is really helpful. And at the end of the day, it's empowering to make those small changes through time
Yeah.
because then you're in control of where you want to go.
I love it. I love it. Now, you've been doing podcasting for a while now. How many episodes do you have, Kenny?
Man, we've got a blur of podcast episodes because we started with a completely different idea of what we were doing as a podcast, and we've adjusted through the pandemic.
Yeah.
We had the podcast before the pandemic. We had some doctors and health and wellness professionals on our podcast when we started off.
Yeah.
We've kind of switched who we were having as guests, what our topics have been.
Yeah.
And now we've got over a couple hundred podcast shows. And it's been really awesome to to connect with more people and evolve in having these conversations and hearing other people's insights and learning from that process as well.
Yeah. I always say it's like osmosis. It's a wonderful way to not only build relationships, but to learn. I've learned so much from the podcast guests that I've had on. Is there any guests in particular that have stood out to you, Kenny?
I really enjoyed having Joe Woodard on as
Yeah,
a
Joe.
guest. Yeah, he puts on a conference, Scaling New Heights,
Yeah.
and I was able to have him on as a guest and able actually to speak at Scaling New Heights a couple years back.
Nice.
Um, it's a cool conference for accountants
Yeah,
and
especially the tech.
bookkeepers,
Yeah.
and they've got a lot of great sponsors. And I really appreciate what he's built. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to having Mike McAllowitz on as a guest.
Ah, yeah.
He's a great entrepreneur who's continuing to put out amazing things. So yeah, it's been a real pleasure. And then there's this other guy that I had on recently, Rory Henry. He's got this new book coming
He's
out.
got a new book he's promoting.
It's yeah, it's got all these, like, I think a couple dozen people contributing to it. It seems like a pretty awesome thing.
Awesome. Thank you for that plug on my show here, Kenny. Now, is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't covered?
I think the thing that would have someone listen to and think about, ponder for a second,
Yeah.
because I'll run and talk to a lot of different people, and I'll say, hey, look, if you're trying to do anything to improve with your marketing sales, even if you're not like doing a lot of advertising, if you're marketing to your existing customers,
Yeah.
that's marketing. If you're not marketing to your existing customers, then you should be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
One of the challenges that I run into is people think about, oh, I know this already. Oh, I've heard this stuff. I already know it. Yeah, I know. That's teenage brain. That's teenage brain, right?
Yeah.
Thinking we know it all. We got to come at it with, there's always an opportunity to amplify. There's always an opportunity to do something a little bit better.
Yeah.
If you are thinking, getting into the mindset that I'm doing so good, I couldn't possibly improve, that's limiting thinking.
Yeah.
And so I admit I've had that mind thought myself. It happens. But if you could recognize it, you could say, you know what? I don't know what I don't know.
I don't know what I don't know.
And
Yeah.
then step into, when you have an opportunity, whether it's like from someone like myself or from someone like Rory, who opens up an opportunity to get a fresh perspective or to share
Yeah.
ways that you can grow and improve, step into that with an open mind. If you learned one idea that you could take away,
Right.
that could change your future, not just for yourself, but for your team, for your inner circle, for your community. So come into things with an open mind. Don't have teenage brain.
I love it. Don't have maybe that's the title of our podcast. Don't have teenage brain. I
Love it.
I love it. Cool. Well, thank you so much here, Kenny. I know you mentioned it on the podcast already, but if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
So you could find Kenny Harper on LinkedIn. You could find me. I'm typically easy to find, one of the top people who pop up. But you can also go to growthamplifiers.com. And if you go to growthamplifiers.com/amplify, get our free customer value journey resources. These are free, valuable tools that have been proven, used by hundreds of businesses from all different shapes and sizes around the country. You can gain some fresh perspective. You can empower your team. You can get better results on all of your marketing and sales efforts. Doesn't hurt you to take a step and an action to go to growthamplifiers.com/amplify. Don't procrastinate. Be an amplifier.
I love it. I love it. I'll put all that in the show notes. Kenny, thank you so much for coming on the show. I had a great time going back to back. We'll have to do this again here in the future.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
All opinions expressed by Rob Santos and Rory Henry on this website podcast interview are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Arrowroot Family Office LLC or their parent company or affiliates, and may have been previously disseminated on television, radio, internet, or another medium. You should not treat any opinion expressed by anyone as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinions. Past performance is not indicative of future results.